Hello, everyone. I'm Jorge Del Carpio, founder of Kreante Agency, a no-code, low-code agency founded in Peru, Lima, Peru, in October 2020. We're currently a team of 23 people, and we use different no-code, low-code tools as a stack. So mainly Bubble, Webflow, WeWeb, Zano, Flutterflow, and Supabase.
So, what were the beginnings of your agency and why did you choose no-code?
Great question. So at the beginning, it was the pandemic in 2020. I stopped my job, my former job at that time in Lima, Peru. And then I was looking for like new opportunities. I was applying to new jobs and like to different roles, position in the startup entrepreneurial like industry. And at that time, I was already like playing with no code tools with say play because it was a start. I didn't know much about it, so I started like using Adalo, Glide, or Table, these two like to start like seeing the potential of it. And then when I saw that I could like really build real product like with functionality and feature that I could have never imagined to build before, then I said, okay, there's something here, right? Like there's a potential here. Uh, then like before that, I always try to like start some business. I will talk about it later, but yeah, I have this entrepreneurial chip inside me from like many years. So I think, okay, this is a new opportunity. Let's try it. Let's try building some application for friends, for family, for people I knew. I was teacher before, so I knew some students that also have like some ideas. And then yeah, I start one project and a second, and then I had like different clients, and I decided to open the company. And then like no code was made sense, right? Because I see all the potential of it, everything you could do it, that it was accessible for my clients as well, like on concerning the economic side, the budget compared to coding solution. So yeah, that's why then we decided to go with Bubble at the beginning. Like it was the main tool we're using because of the potential of it, and then how the agency started. I talked with the co-founder, that which is it's my cousin. We already tried to like entrepreneur before, like to build some companies before. We failed, but we learned a lot. And I had this idea, so I pitched to him. I told him, okay, look, Christian, I had this idea. He was working at Ernst & Young at that time. He was senior manager, so a really good position, more than 50 years working out there. So it was like, I had to convince him, right? So I pitched him, Christian, let's check these tools. They are, I think there's a good potential on it. He's a former developer. He studied software development. So for him, it was like the great opportunity to come back to tech. So okay, he said, okay, let's do it. I will help you like during my free time because I'm still working. I need like an income. I can like just quit my job. So that's the way we start. I start like by my own. He start helping me on the weekends during nighttime with our clients, and then yeah, that's the beginning of the story of this nice story of the no code agency.
And what were you doing before launching the agency? You mentioned that you were a teacher and also entrepreneur. How they look like?
Yeah, I feel like many entrepreneurs will have like many lives before, like or project, like our main project. So indeed, I'm a former engineer. I study in France and work in France in different industry, like Airbus in aeronautics, in Gas de France, which is like the major gas company in France. But I didn't really like it, like the engineering work, like to be behind a computer doing calculation, and also like working on project that you will see the results in 10 years, 20 years. That was too long for me. Like I wanted something like more on the short term, right? Like to build stuff and really have more like human relationships. So I moved into a business work as a headhunter on the tech industry, like headhunting on the oil and gas industry, but like for tech profiles. I worked there like several years, and then the same. Like I was okay. This is fun. I like it, but I need something else. I want like more. I don't know, more energy. I want like stuff to move faster and to learn more. So I decided to do a master degree on startups entrepreneurship in France in Toulouse. And in the meantime, I was like starting to build like some startup with which is my co-founder today, Christian. And we tried, like, we had two ideas of startups, and we failed because of this tech barrier and the economical gap, right? To invest, we didn't have the money for it. And then I came back to Peru. I came back to Peru in 2018 after my master's degree. I was hired like a person in charge of the incubator of a big university in Lima, and also in charge of the innovation hub. So I worked there for more than 2 years. And during the pandemic, I was teacher, and I was also person in charge of this innovation hub. So I have a lot of entrepreneurs. I was mentoring. I built all the startup program out there. And at the end, during the pandemic, budget like disappeared. With the university have more budget, so my contract ended up out there. And at that time, I already like was like hearing about no code, right? Like early 2020, I'm subscribed to a lot of newsletter from France, and that's how I discovered this tool, because like all these newsletter about entrepreneurs, innovation, and startups start talking about no code, low code, about Bubble. So I create my account, start playing on it, and then after my contract end up, I keep on like helping the students I was helping before, like to build their product, but using no code. So that was like a big difference. Like while I was at the university, I had this startup program where students like had the idea, they validated, and they did like a PowerPoint and sometimes some wireframes, but the idea stopped there, right? Like they couldn't make it real. They develop it because of too expensive, too long, and they didn't have any tech knowledge. So that's where there was like an aha moment, right? Like you saw you see that insight about, okay, this is something real. You are solving a real problem. And so then I started helping them, and then as I mentioned, I found the company in October. My contract ended up in July 2020. I kept like helping some entrepreneurs and some startups, and then I created a company, yeah, on October 2020.
Okay, and were there any initial challenges with no code? Maybe some related to local market in Peru? Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, that's a good question, because in 2020, I would say really little or almost anyone knew about no code, at least in Peru or in Latin America, right? It was like even in France, there was like a small no code community. I think there was like just a few hundred of people inside that, like the no code France, which is a huge today community in France. But at that time in 2020, they were just creating this community. I met um, Thibaut from Auto Tools, that he had this bootcamp on Bubble. So I registered to the bootcamp. I think it was the second one at that time. It was one of the first bootcamp. I made the Bubble bootcamp as well at that time. So I tried to train, because there was not much information, at least in Latam and in Spanish. So because I speak French and English, that helped me to start training and to see all the potential of this tool. So that was one of the challenge, to find information about it. Uh, then at the beginning, Kreante wasn't called Kreante. We had like other names in 2020, and we started like an edtech. In fact, we started like, because I saw like how Thibaut in France was doing his edtech and Bubble Bootcamp and was working well, and I said, okay, let's try to do something similar in Peru. So I built a program inspired of him, like, okay, a bootcamp of several weeks where we'll train in no code, especially Bubble, and like the edtech model, right? I record videos. I remember recording like every night videos during the pandemic. There was nothing to do, so I had plenty of time. So recorder, I don't know, I think it was like 50 videos from Adalo, Glide, Bubble, like to do the clone of Airbnb, the clone of Tinder, the clone of other marketplace. I recorded that. I built the platform on Bubble, and then we launched. I tried to contact people, like to see if they were interested. But what was the challenge? That nobody knew about no code, and nobody knew about our company. Like we weren't like a big company known, like, okay, they will trust us, right? Like, okay, they are talking about, I don't know, but it's a big company, I will try. We were no one. Like it was like the beginning of no code, at least in Latam. So it was quite challenging. I think we managed to sell, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 subscriptions, and that was it. Like, okay, we say, well, maybe this model needs more resources. It's not the timing to build the tech. So let's move into the agency part, because we start to have demand. Like I remember at that time there was like Code Map. There was this platform that connect clients with freelancers and agencies. And at that moment, there weren't like that many agencies and freelancers, so it wasn't that complicated to connect with potential leads and to get clients. And that's how I got, I think, my first international client from the States was Cortum 5. It's a big legal tech in North Carolina. And yeah, they moved all their stuff from WordPress to Bubble, and they were working with different like bubblers all around the world. So we were part of the team. I think during 2 years we worked with them. So that was a great experience, and also like interesting, right? Like to see how it was a startups, but they were already moving a stuff from WordPress that is well known to Bubble. So so yeah, that's I think the challenge were like local market, as you mentioned, to to make known no code and low code, to find also profiles, because I remember in 2020 I looked into LinkedIn no code, and I had I think two people on as a result. There was no one like using today. I look for no code logo. There are like plenty of people and profiles, right? That is a no code developer, ambassador. So yeah, that was a quite challenge, and also because yeah nobody knew us. We were really new. We didn't even what were called Kreante. We were called No Code Peru. Then we moved into Innovaya, and then at the end we changed into Kreante, like more a global brand. So yeah, that was interesting to yeah to educate people, to make know about no code, to contact people and talk to them about no code. I interview a lot of people that came from the UX UI industry to tell them, okay, you can, now that you're a designer, you can make products. So yeah, that was I think one of the main challenge of it.
So you came a long way from 2020, and can you describe and highlight some milestones for your agency reached so far? One or two main milestones?
Yeah, sure. I think at the beginning, and what helped us a lot is to get international clients, because as local market, South America's developing countries, it's not the same ticket that you can sell the services. So it would have been much more harder. I don't know. I'm not sure we have been able to go through the agency business model just with local market. So I think one of the important milestone at that time, it was to get American clients and French clients, and then from there, like build some partnership, and then yeah, we start to get more and more. That was, I think, one important milestone. And the two others, I would say that we reached last year. At the end of last year, was more than 100 project. We reached our 100 project on December 2023 in a little bit more than 3 years. So with the team side we have, I think that would have been impossible on code, right? So that's also show how fast you can go and how many projects you can build on so little time, right? Because 100 projects, it's a lot. So that was a huge milestone, and I think probably business sales, right? Like to reach the seven figures sales within these 3 years. I think that's also important. It's more like maybe a vanity metric, we say, even if it doesn't mean anything concerning the business model, right? You can sell 10 millions, but then be losing money, right? But it's just like it's a milestone. It's like, okay, we reached a 1 million sale. That's nice. But yeah, we're looking for more and see how to expand and to put our internally our process really clear. So yeah, that's other challenge that we're facing. But yeah, I think that would be the most important milestone we have reached so far. We have built Laboratoria Plus using Bubble as a no-code tool. Laboratoria Plus is one of the biggest tech company in Latam. It has a valuable brand that has been built through the years. Their mainly focus is to teach women in soft skills, so different soft skills through the platform. This platform, the main feature and more challenging that have been built was the Google Calendar integration, because we had to use not only like many APIs, but synchronization about calendar events. When you create an event, you have to send like the location, or if there's a meet link as well, and also to resend or to cancel events. And all of this has been built through APIs with the Google calendar APIs and Bubble. That's possible with Bubble with their API connector that they have internally. The other also feature that was important, I would say, was the mentoring section, because you need to define per mentor their availabilities. So you have a calendar where they define when are they available to meet some students, and then the logic behind the students to book every mentoring session, to confirm it, to always cancel it sometimes, and to prevent the people by email. So there are a whole business logic that have to be implemented on the tech side. That was also quite challenging. And the last one, I would say the Stripe one, the Stripe, which is the payment. That at the beginning, the advantage also of no-code is like you can iterate fast, and this platform start with a yearly plan, so people could pay like once a year, and then have access to all the platform, all the courses, the mentoring, and the events. And then they found out that people were preferring like just to have a monthly payment, okay, to have the availability just to pay monthly. And then there's a different impacts, right? Like when you cancel your subscription, when you like subscribe, I don't know, at the mid of the month, and it's available till the end of the month. So all this logic, the same, had to be implemented with Stripe and Bubble, and we successfully were able to do it. So that was a good challenge. One important thing about the platform that today has thousands of users in all Latin America. It's a big project that started like almost 2 years ago, with a development phase for around 2 months to build the whole platform. And then we have been working on sprints since like the last 2 years. And I will explain a little bit more in detail how we work with the team, because it's a really agile team they have internally. So it allows, thanks to no code, to go much more faster in an agile way, right? To iterate, to change features, and to add modules whenever they need it. Which is interesting about Laboratoria, that this is an edtech company that was already existing before, and the part of the founder team has a lot of experience on tech industry, because they used to run a code development agency. So despite their background and their experience on coding, they decided to implement their platform using no code, because they were looking for speed on go-to-market. Like the go-to-market strategy was really focused on speed. Okay, we have to go fast, iterate fast, and like be able to have an agile team to change everything we want like really fast. And that's why they decide to use no code. So their team today, Laboratory, is a live product that you can go to the website or the application, and they have an extremely agile team that collects feedback and iterates continuously to improve the platform and offer the best experience to their user. And the key factor why this project has been a success in both sides, for Kreante and for Laboratoria, is because there was a clear communication through all the detailed request specification. They have project manager on their side. We have a project manager, and they have a structured Q&A with specific scenarios defined before testing. And that's really important, like, because you can keep adding a lot of features and keep a lot of things, but if you don't have a specific and structured Q&A, then you will last forever, right? Testing the app, not doing the right regression testing. So that's I think like one of the main important reasons why the project is such a success. And what has been their feedback, like we have received from their part, is that they have they've been amazed like how fast they can iterate using no code, reaching an incredible go-to-market speed. And they can at the same time they can focus on their business while trusting the tech side on a partner like us, right? And this is an example of many that we have, that companies are not focusing on their business side and what they are best at, without like worrying about all the tech and all the issues that could have and all the time that could take to develop their platform on coding in this case. So yeah, that's how I would like to summarize our experience with Laboratoria.
From your perspective, how has no-code changed the way we create software? Let's compare it to the traditional software development.
I think it has changing a lot. Like it's completely, even if the result is the same, at the end you have an application, a software, even maybe a website. The way to build this application has changed a lot, because the speed, first of all, because of the speed. much more faster than the traditional way. So it allows you to really be agile on the process. It means that you can build real features during sprints period, right? Not like while you're doing coding, it's much more harder to like build a whole feature during one sprint that could last like 1 or 2 weeks. In no code, that's possible, right? So that's one of the impact, which lead me to the consequence that will be the iteration process is much more faster. So you can really test your product, get feedback, and then change whatever you need. And I think I explained about Laboratoria, how they change about their business model, the price model. They changed it. The first months after they launched, they saw that they might change this price model, and they did it like quite fast in no code. And also, I think one of the main impact will be in some cases, depending which tools you use, the client can have an independence on technology. They can be able to take in charge the platform, not everything, of course, because there are some tools that requires like training and requires a lot of knowledge or at least tech knowledge. But there are some other tools that allows clients. We have clients that we have trained them when we launched the app or the website, and then they are independent and they can change few stuff. Then if they need to iterate or add modules feature, then they will ask us and we will do it. But at least I think they gain a lot of independence in this way. So that's also really important because it take the cost lower on maintenance and support, as that's also an important impact. Instead of hiring 5 or 10 people in your engineering team to take care of your software, you use the stack, the no-code tool, which is in charge of all the security and all the maintenance. And then you have a partner, a tech partner like Kreante, that will help you like just maintaining the app few hours per month or few hours per year. And that's a real example because I have application that's been live like for already 2 3 years, and we have just been there like few hours or few weeks since then, instead of like for the team to recruit a whole tech team, right, to take in charge the application. So I think that's the main impact and difference compared to traditional software development.
You said that you accomplished over 100 projects. So could you provide one or two examples where no-code offered a distinct advantage over traditional software development? I mean, compared to the traditional software development.
Yes, there are many depending on the market and on the type of clients. For example, if I take as example entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, by definition, they try to bootstrap as much as they can their business, right? And that's also impact on their digital product, on their software development. In that case, in the past, many entrepreneurs weren't able to develop a product, and that happened to me twice because it's too expensive on traditional software development. Now, no-code, low-code tools have opened a new market. That's why, for me, it's a disruptive technology because it's creating a new market that before wasn't like a tent. And this market is entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs that they have two options. They can learn, and it would take more or less time depending how much time you take and how good are you in, like at least in logic and database, and you can do it yourself, or you can hire a freelance or a provider or an agency to do it for you, but much like less expensive than the traditional way. So that's a really example of how the advantage, it's we're giving the opportunity to a lot of entrepreneurs and startups to create products, to try their product, and to live their dream of entrepreneur that wasn't like possible before. That was one of the impact for entrepreneurs. And another example I will take is for big companies. Like we have been working already with big companies. We're starting to work with like huge companies that are already going into the no-code, low-code landscape, and that's I think a good insight. One is that they don't want to communicate that much about it because it's a competitive advantage for them. They don't want that the competition know that they are using low-code tools because the other they will copy and start using it and they will go as faster as them, right? So that's one of the like another advantage. And an example I can give you is we're working with a Malaysian company which is focused on insurance on mobile phones insurance, right? So they, like 2 years ago, they contact us because they had like a huge backlog. Their IT department contact us. That's really weird because normally like IT department they are kind of skeptical about no-code, low-code too. And they discovered Bubble at that time, 2 years ago, and they say, okay, let's try with one project because my IT department is full of work. We don't have time. We have like plenty of project to launch to test. So we start with one project. Today we're starting the 12th project with them. So since then, we have built 12 project, 12, 1, 2, in no code, and they just keep iterating, launching product, testing. Okay, this failed, it didn't work. Let's try another one, and we're in charge of like the connection with their infrastructure. So they have their database, they have their own like structure, and we connect the no-code tools we use with their database. So they didn't even have to move their database, right? So that's was a really big advantage. And yeah, I think we can see advantage for these two kind of customer, entrepreneurs, startups, and also big companies.
Speaking about clients, what are the common misconceptions about no-code you encounter speaking with clients?
Yeah, I think the main one will be about what you can do with no code, low code. Many people, many companies has still the image of WordPress, Wix, this no code too that are no code, but just to do website, right? Or maybe like some WordPress you can do more, but it's still limited because of the plugins and what you can do. So I think this is one of the misconceptions that you are limited on what you can build on no code in simple website, while we know you can do almost everything right now, any kind of big project. The other one that is not scalable, and that could be true depending on which no-code, low-code tools you're using. That's why I'll always, when I talk with clients, is always ask what's the roadmap, what's the vision of the product. Maybe a no-code tool is enough because you're not gonna scale and you don't need like advanced feature. Or if on the other side, if you have a lot of users and you need to scale, there are other tools that fit this use case, right? So today we have no-code and low-code tools adapt to, I think, any kind of use case and any kind of clients, entrepreneurs, startups, and big companies. So I think I would say like customization. It was one of the misconceptions. People think that you can customize like the design and the back end. That's one of the misconceptions. The other one will be scalability, that people think that all no code and low code tools are like have a limit and you can scale to hundred or millions of data. Today, for example, I have a project with more than 20 millions of data on the real estate industry in France. So you can scale it with Zano, Zano as a backend. So yeah, you can scale with no code and or low code tools. And the other one I would say is about security. Also, people are afraid about security because they don't own the code. They have to use another platform. So there's some misconception about this. Okay, how does it work? Sometimes they think that they can't export the code, which is true for some cases, for some no-code tools, but there are some tools that you can export the code and that you can install on prems on your server. So yeah, as I mentioned, those misconceptions I think is because people they don't know about everything that exists nowadays. And on the other hand, as a no-code and low-code believer, we know that they are like solution for every use case, right? So that's the important thing to I think to mention.
What are your predictions for the future of no-code development, the upcoming years? Any trends, upcoming technologies that you find exciting?
Great question. From what I see, like at the beginning when I start with no code early 2020, first of all, like there was not many people knowing about it, and we can see from 2020 to today how the trend it's increasing, right? Like how more and more people talk about it, how there are more and more communities all around the world, how not just entrepreneurs and startups are using it, because back at that time it was there were like tools just used for entrepreneurs and startups, right? That was like I think the focus of these tools. Okay, entrepreneur stuff that you can use is cheap, it's easy to use. and anyone could at some point build their platform. Nowadays, what we're seeing is like big companies are using no-code, low-code tools, not just as a clients, because I have like startups that are clients that work with big companies using these tools, but also as direct clients, big companies that wants to try these tools. They have already heard about it, so that they know there's a potential of it. So they are trying with like low impact maybe project to start with, and then adding more and more projects. For example, in Kreante, we've been working with the French government like 2 years ago. We work with the Refugee Association from Canada for the platform for refugees. We work with Schneider Electric with their innovation hub internally, like with an internal project. We work with Swap Device, which is a Malaysian company, insurance mobile company. This is a great example with because Swap Device we started with one project 2 years ago, and nowadays we're on our 12th project to release their IT department backlog. Like they contact us because they have an idea, they heard about Bubble. We start with one project and then they have like keep adding project every year. So those are like I think real example and that show how the trend is going. How not just no code and low code tools are for entrepreneurs and startups, but also for big companies or big startups that have raised funds. I have the example of Iconoclast. Iconoclast is at EdTech in France and UK that they raised, I think, 3 millions like 1.5 years ago. And instead of recruiting a whole IT department, they decide to go into no code and low code with us as a partner. And we build their platform in less than 3 months and they are still using it. There are thousands of users on their platform. They are iterating. We did a V2 last year, and now we're just on maintenance, a support plan. And instead of spending all that money in an IT team, right, they just spend a little bit for their platform, and then they could use all that money for marketing, for sales, for everything that they need it for. And so also for investors, it's interesting, right? Like their return of investment if you know your team or your startup won't spend all the money on IT, but just more on marketing and say, and just a portion of it for the development of the product, it start to be really appealing. And for example, we're just starting also, we just signed off a contract for all this year for a VC venture in Chile that they help startups and yeah, startups. They invest on startups and they want that their startups build their MVP and proof of concept in no code. So in this case, it will be Glide, Softier, Airtable, Make, like no code tools, and they will invest on them, but just no code. When they get like the proof of concept validate, the idea validate, and they got some traction, then they will invest more to develop, or maybe on code, or maybe using other low code tools that are more scalable and customized. So yeah, I think that's our real example that how the future is coming and it's the present. When people ask me how you see the future, I say it's already like happening, right? It's not the future. It's like big companies are already using it, venture capital are already using it, big startups and entrepreneurs are already using it. So it's like you can use it for anyone needing a digital product. Maybe some exception as I need to develop an AI model or a machine learning model or something where you really need coding, then you can build that on code and then connect it to your no code platform.
What advice would you give to the developers that are interested in the no-code space? Give one advice why they should start with no-code and one reason why they shouldn't.
Great question. So if we're talking about developers, so that they have already a background in tech and they know about software development, first of all, it will be much more easier for them to get into the no code low code space because they will learn much more faster, right? So there's nothing to lose for them to try these tools, especially the low code ones, because it will help us to them to go much more faster. To use these tools, you can still put some code on it, and at the end, the result is the same. So why would you spend like 8 months to code something while you can use a low code tool and do it in few weeks or maybe a couple of months? So probably you should like try this tool and see what you can do. There's nothing better than to try. And also, but because what we discussed before, the trend, it's really big, it's increasing a lot. So there's a big demand on no coders profile. I think that's the best combination. Developers that are doing no code, low code, because they have all the skills needed to take the maximum of this platform. It means you can develop your application using no code and add some custom code to make it scalable, to make it custom, to like work to find some workarounds that you can do in no code. So I think like say, if there's a huge market in coders, there's like we're seeing also a market growing and expanding for no code profiles and no code slash coders. Another example, for example, if I see in Kreante, at the beginning we start recruiting no coders with no coding background, right? With no tech background. I was harder for them because even you say, some people say it's easy, no code for everyone. It's not necessarily completely true. Depending first of all which tools you use, depending if the people has like the easy to about logic, database structure. You need to have some tech like basics to start doing no code and low code. And also because at some point you need some coding, right? Especially when you're an agency and you do like high quality product and like really scalable, secure. So it's more, I will say, for developers that want to turn into no coders, there's a huge opportunity. So yeah, I would say just try, start with easy tools maybe, and then go to with Bubble, start with WeWeb, with Supabase, with Zano, and you will see all the potential of it. And I see more and more also developers that are starting to go into the no code industry.